All right. Yeah. How are you guys doing tonight? Uh, I think, I think we're there. Are we there yet? There we go. All right. Thank you guys for showing up tonight. My first ever live on this thing. So, I appreciate you guys. And tonight, I'm excited. We have like the best person to kick off this whole experience. You've really got to, I know you guys know him. You've really got to sit back with some popcorn for this because it's going to be an awesome live. We are bringing to the stage the one and only from the Eye of Jupiter, Tom Franklin.
Hi, how's it going, Magical?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm a little tired, but I'll make it happen, dude. Thanks so much for inviting me as your first guest on your show, and that's really cool, man. Thank
Well, thank you for joining me. I appreciate that a lot. You have no, you do know. You do know. So, I really want to start off with you giving just a little bit of a shameless blurb about your show and whatever else you have to pimp out to us tonight.
Yeah, my name is Tom Franklin. I'm the host of the Eye of Jupiter podcast. I do a live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and I release one regular podcast every Friday in the afternoon. So anytime when you come home from work, I just released. I did one. It's about dark Mayans. It was a guy who's studying psychology, and he was talking to some like serial killers, and we talked about school shootings and weird stuff like that. It's a little dark to start with that, but that's what we talked about. Sorry, Daniel, we're jumping in the deep end all right away. But yeah. So it's just I like talking about things that are just kind of under the radar, life, love, consciousness, cryptids, paranormal, anything like that, really.
Right. Exactly. And that's part of like what your show has kind of evolved into. What I want to know though, let's talk for a moment about what really got you started in all this. What was the thing that led up to you creating the Eye of Jupiter?
Jupiter. Well, I came to Mexico because of something that happened in the world, and I just wouldn't allow them to do that to me. So I met a person here, and he kind of like got my feet wet about Mexico. Watch out for this. This is what you need to be aware of. Kind of helped me out at the beginning, and we just started like talking. And he's really into like um, you know all kind of creepy stuff like Halloween and uh, he's had UFO encounters, and he started talking to me about this stuff, and it sparked something in me that I remembered having as a kid. That I had a poltergeist encounter when I was a child,
Hmm.
and which messed me up for just still bothers me, to be honest with you. And we started talking about those things, and then we realized that we had a very good rapport. He's a well spoken person as well. His name is Ry Voss, and he has the podcast Codex of Curiosities. I'll never be able to get that out because it's such a tongue twister, but also a alliteration at the same time. So, and we just started talking about. I was like, "So we should do a podcast, dude. We're so good at this." And he was just like, "Yeah." And then we just started doing one, and then it was just basically what happened is like we just have different ways of doing things. But he's artistic himself, and so am I. So it just kind of was like a natural thing to happen where he then did his own thing, and then I just did my own thing. And so I started the Eye of Jupiter on my birthday, the 15th of February of this year. And ever since then, I got to meet people like you and Fisher of Spam and Pamela and a myriad of other guests and other podcasters as well. It's been quite the interesting journey, not to rip off your name.
That's okay. We like to throw that name around. So.
Yeah, okay, so it was like it was a shameless plug on my behalf for you. Okay, great.
There you go. So let me ask you a couple of things about the experience early on in your life. First of all, how old were you about at the time?
This was in 1988, so I was 8 years old.
Were there any teenagers or people approaching
Yes,
teenage?
it was me.
Okay.
Okay. So this is called leading, ladies and gentlemen. This is what Daniel's. He's already he's been on a few podcasts, but this is his first time doing one. He's already got some expert tips already in his bag. Look at you pulling at your tips. Okay, you're gonna lead me, Daniel. I'll follow. So I lived in this house with my. We were between places, my family. So it was me and my sister, and she's younger than me. She's like a year and a half younger than me. And my mother and my father were married one time before. And in my mom's marriage, she had a child, and she had like partial custody. And every time she would come over, that's when things would happen. So, and she was, she's 5 years, like 13, something like that. And later, I learned in life that she had some things happen to her. And what Daniel's alluding to is that this poltergeist type activity always seems to be connected with some type of trauma in someone coming of age within the teenage years and beginning puberty. And it was a classic case of that. So that's why they never believed us, because every time she would come over, it would happen. And they thought that she was just like playing a trick on us.
Mm-hmm. Right. And usually it seems to be the majority of time with that, it is females that this activity is produced around.
Oddly enough, right?
It's very interesting. It's very interesting. And the other thing that I've come to believe myself is that actually a lot of times this is even heightened whenever you're in the middle of a full moon and this is going on. So
wow.
Yeah.
To give you a little bit of a tip too, dude, if you see someone that has a cool comment on the side, you can take and click on that comment and it'll pop it up at the bottom. So if someone's like promoting your channel, or someone's like, asking an interesting question, there you go. And then when you don't want to, hey, Pam is also the moderator as well already. Look at you. Oh, that's awesome. Also my moderator and many other moderators, probably the best moderator in the game. Shout out to Pam. And then when you want to then remove it, you click on the right side again where it is, and it'll go back away. Trust me, I had to learn all that, and I was really bad at it at the beginning. You're doing better than I was, that's for sure. There you go. God, he's over there killing it, dude. Oh, did you just mute? You muted your microphone.
There we go. All right.
There we go. All right.
That was weird. How did the microphone mute from over there? Because I had my cursor on Pam. Oh, we'll figure it out.
Well, anyway. Something happened. Anyhow, yes. Full moon, yes. That was the last thing you said.
Yeah.
Full moon. But it was not a full moon because the moon cycle is, 28 days, I think, something like that?
Right.
And she would come like every other weekend, and it happened, I don't know, 3 or 4 times every other weekend. So we would maybe be in a moon cycle at the moment, and then we weren't in a moon cycle. So it wasn't, but maybe the night where it really got really strong, maybe it was, but I was 8, so I didn't know anything about it.
Right. It would be really hard to track that at that age.
Oh, my daughter's 8 years old. I couldn't imagine her going through that right now.
Wow.
Oh my God, dude! That set off something in my head. Oh my God! All right, I know I would handle it differently too, because this is the thing that's the worst thing about it, Daniel, is like the parental figures that are supposed to protect you, then at that moment don't believe you and don't protect you, and it's like a double jeopardy, like a double whammy. So if you're just saying something, listen sometimes.
Well, and I remember, like in my case early on, the stepmother would say things like, "I heard people walking around in your room last night," but when I opened the door, you were asleep and there was nobody
Whoa.
there. Yeah, and stuff like that. And and I would go, okay, well that's interesting, but what do you guys? And they were uber religious too. So I was like, so what are you guys doing to make sure this doesn't happen again? And of course it was years later that I discovered why these things were happening. But at the same time, I was just kind of like, okay, well,
I'm
yeah,
going to have you on my podcast again to interview you about that particular thing. I don't want to get into that. You're interviewing me today, but you got me over here thinking of a
right,
million questions already, buddy. All right, all right, all
right.
right, all right. But
There's
they hear
reasons
the
why we
steps.
connect. There's reasons why we connect. That's very
True.
so.
Fair enough.
You have had an amazing, just almost parade of people coming onto your show with some really great stories. I know. So tell me what one of the ones, and I already know this, I think, but I want to know for sure. What is one of the ones that sticks out in your mind the most, that really affected you the most?
Easily the one that pops in my head immediately, which is crazy because it hasn't gotten any views, is the James Fakis story. It's the giant
Yep.
10-foot owl with a 25-foot wingspan coming out of the trees and attacking him and his friend in the woods, and him like having PTSD and dreams about it and things like
Mhm.
that. That one was, and that's a recent one. That's like what, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago that it released, and
Yeah, it was very
it's
recent.
just one of those that just really, like, I was like, this is mind blowing to me. I mean, I've had many others too, but that one is the first one that just sticks out in my mind immediately.
Yeah, yeah,
I
I
feel
got
like
to
good at
tell
this
you,
too.
like I've gone back and watched that twice. Thank you. I hope so. I'm
Oh,
looking
okay.
forward to
All right.
hoping forward to it. Yeah, that one I watched a couple of times actually, and but the first time I was trying to visualize because like the areas where he was talking about was not really that far probably from Chicago and some of the other areas that I'm familiar with and have even lived near before. So
Yes.
I was trying to get the geography correct on that.
Hmm.
And then I went back and I watched it the second time and I was like, wow, yeah, some of the things he brought up and some of the things that you brought up in that particular episode, I found very interesting about the idea of people confusing something like that with the Mothman, another
Yeah.
thing that's
Yeah, he brought that up. He was talking about the recent like swell of Mothman, or I don't know, maybe it was a
Mhm.
certain time period. I don't exactly remember. Of like I think it was up to like 40, 45. I can't remember exactly. Like different Mothman sightings at the same time, and other people also having these experiences. Like he was saying that like a friend of his seen a 4-foot owl. He was like, "Get out of here!" Oh, welcome to the tropics. Do you hear that? Ah, yeah, it's a banger sometimes out there. And he was kind of like, yeah, whatever, man. And then it happened to him, but the one that he seen multiple actually because he was so asphyxiated on the one that almost basically killed him. Excuse
yeah.
me, unlifed him. You would think I'd be a professional by now, but he was like keeping an eye on this. Like I'm not going to take my eyes off of this. And his friends like tugging on his shirt, and he's like, what is it? What could it possibly be more important than this? He's like, look behind him. It was like 5 to 6 other ones behind him that were like 4 foot tall.
Oh yeah.
And he was basically reached out to me, and he was just like, hey, do you know any other story? Because I think I was on, I can't remember which podcast I was on. It might have been on the round table with Josh there. And I kind of brought it up or something. And he was just like, hey, and then he contacted me about it. And I still haven't found it was a documentary. Maybe you guys can help me out. It was a documentary. I was on YouTube, and it was about a holler somewheres in like Ohio, West Virginia, and this girl got like possessed or something, and they were kept talking about like these large like owls or animals or birds, and I was like, that's interesting how those are connected. And he just like reached out to me and said, do you know any? Could you find that for me? And I still haven't been able to find it. Maybe you guys can like send me a link or something, or send it to Magical and he'll get it to me.
Right, right. Yeah, because I don't know. I it's so weird to me because like the whole thing with birds in general, like they tend to, they have a lot of interesting lore and myth and so forth throughout history. So when you tie birds to things like, especially possession, I always find that very interesting. Um,
Yeah.
I had an I had an AI image that I asked AI to create for me an image of a possession or an exorcism actually is what I did. And there's a giant bird like literally hanging out over the bed of this person who is supposedly possessed. And I was like, really, we're going with birds again?
Oh, that's
Even
weird, dude. Did you
even
prompt it
yeah.
to say bird?
No, I had nothing in there
Oh,
with bird in it whatsoever, and it popped that up.
that's weird.
AI does a lot of wonderful things when I prompt it to do so. So I'm just kind of like, I'll give it a very vague thing, and it gives me some stuff that I'm just like, where is this coming from? So let me ask you this, because I know one of the things that drew me to you right away was like your energy in general. But so
Oh yeah,
when you
we,
it
we've talked about this.
right. So let me send you there for a minute to kind of camp on that. What exactly, first of all, when was the first time you really became aware of some of the things about yourself that connect you to the paranormal?
That's a good question, dude. I don't. I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm connected to the paranormal in the way that other people are.
Mhm.
I'm more of I'm more of like a, how would you say it, like a transfer. Like, I'm the mirror. When someone comes at me with this, there we go again. Now we're talking about a lightning strikes. That's
Wow.
so cool for your first episode, dude. It's
Right?
pretty cool, right, dude?
It really
I
is.
wish I had a better microphone so you guys can hear that. But it's more like I'm just kind of a conductor of those experiences that other people are having. I just try to make a space in which they feel comfortable talking with me, and because I've had, like I said, a poltergeist experience. I've had some other experiences being here that are new to me. Nothing crazy, nothing like, I've been abducted or anything like that, or had a Sasquatch encounter, or seen a skinwalker or something like that, which other people have. But it's more of like, um, I find it like a lot of people in this area like to do the salacious thing, like, this thing is down in, hey, how's it going, Lyra? Good, good shit. I don't know who that is. Lyra, which, hi. Um, so like, what was I saying? Yeah, it's just like creating a place for people to come and like um, feel comfortable with talking with me, and I think it's very important to be genuine. Um, I don't I don't want to, like, tease things apart about their actual, like, is it real or not. It's more like, about the actual situation, about what they experienced and what they felt, and what's the implication for their life, their family, or maybe their, religious upbringing or what they believe in, and kind of really get to know them. Because when you talk to people about their spirituality or religion in connection with, say, Bigfoot or Dogman or things of that nature, how does that fit into their worldview? And that's always interesting to me, um, being that I'm not Christian. But it's kind of like, you know, I don't really, like I'm saying, I have some firsthand accounts with it, but I'm not by any, not a person who has had it regularly happen. I am extremely sensitive to psychedelics, more in a shaman area. Like, I can just, simple things like, a little bit of a little bit of cannabis or something like that, and then I can do some meditation practices and some breathing techniques that I've learned through the years. and I could really like go into some really deep places. But it's very cool because what it does is that it enables me to understand someone else's point of view and try to see me as well as them through their eyes, and then just try to reflect that out to everybody else. And I guess that's kind of answering the energy question as well as the paranormal question.
Right, right. It, it's very interesting. One of the things that I'm finding really quickly that, and agree or disagree with me on this, is that when you're hosting something like types of stuff we're doing, like trying to walk that fine line between this is real in the perspective of the person that
Right.
experienced it versus do I really
Right. Right.
you
The
know
doubts that may creep into your mind. Yeah.
right now it takes a lot for me to doubt somebody, okay, like if somebody tells me like they regularly go to Mars to have lunch every day or something like that, my first question is what type of vehicle are you driving? And then I have to go, okay, so maybe we got a little bit of a problem going on here.
My first question
That
is like, did you have a Mars candy bar at lunch? Like maybe you got it in reverse, but that's my brain. So I have to like
right,
shut up the funny Tom and just kind of concentrate. I don't know,
but
man. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
you know, and personal experience, I gotta tell you, my eldest brother was schizophrenic for years. He would talk about some outlandish stuff, and one day he brought up to me something about the Men in Black coming to um, the house at my mom's house. He was staying there at one point at my mom's house just to visit him. And the next time I saw my mom, I was like, I gotta tell you, something's crazy here with Gary. He's talking all this smack about the Men in Black coming to your house. And so she was like, oh no, that really happened. Now, my mom was not a jokester. She was not somebody who would like everything was a matter of fact with her. It was all
Okay.
like, doom, doom, doom. We didn't joke around. We didn't play. We didn't like exaggerate things. It was as it was. And when she said that, I literally was like, I looked at her. I said, "What did you just say?" And she said, "No, they released these two guys," and she described them to me in detail. That they came to the door. They asked where he was. She said that she told them they were down in the he was down in the basement. They literally pushed past my mom and walked down
Oh
in the
my God.
basement. A few minutes later, they come walking back up with a box of stuff, went out to their car, and just disappeared. And my mom would swear this like every time I would ask her, she would tell me the same story. She's like, I know what you're going for. She's like, I don't play these games. Like I just tell it the way it is. I was like, I know. It's hard for me to accept. With that said,
Wow.
with that said, you know, even if somebody has a history of mental illness, it doesn't necessarily always play into all of it, like our perception of things.
Yeah, it's kind of not even like I was saying about children too. You know, children they have an active imagination, but that's
Right,
part of growing up. So like you have to sometimes take everything with a grain of salt, but also give it its due too. It's unfair. You know, if someone has an experience, you need to be able to listen to that experience and have them feel as if you're actually there for them. And
mhm,
if the experience isn't true, that'll kind of work itself out in the wash eventually anyway. You know what I mean? If someone's being
exactly.
untrue, you know,
Exactly.
dishonest, that you know they'll one way or another that will affect them later on in life. But that's not what you or I are here to do. And
Right,
it's important that we give them that ability to speak that, to say that.
right. And there are ways, like if for those that are like more interested in investigation and so forth, and you're just getting started, one of the things that I will tell you is there are ways of being able to verify some things. Like if they describe weather patterns, um, they have a date or about date that they can give you. You can go back and you can look to find out what the weather patterns were for that area and that day and time and so forth, and
Yeah.
kind of gauge with some things. There's ways of
Wow.
being able to tell what what's been going on and what's up with parts of the story to put it together. So you know, when you get past the personal perspective and
Hmm.
get into the reality, you there's always ways of being able to fact check things to line it
Yeah.
up if you're really into the investigative part of it. Um,
Good point. Good point.
yeah.
I don't know if that's, but you tend to be that way a little bit more than me. You're a little bit more investigative than I am. I'm just
Mhm.
more of like, hey, let's move it. Let's keep it moving. And I kind of actually kind of depend on you. Be like, you'd be like, Tom, did you know? I'll be like, oh, okay. So, I mean, you could do that as well. I think a lot of people should, if they're interested in this, of course, with the proper protection and the proper mindset and heart and love in your heart. If you want to, and be with somebody that you absolutely trust, to maybe go out and do things like Bigfoot Explorer or haunted houses, paranormal investigators and things like that. It can be quite enlightening, but at the same time, if you're going to do that, yeah, I would just suggest to be extremely careful and speak with someone that you trust about it, that has a little bit more experience in that before you go ahead and start down that road.
Right, right. It's one of those things where, first of all, if personal perspective again, it everybody wants to be an investigator. It's very important to do your research before you start. It really is because there's so many factors involved with really doing good research, and there's so many things that you can get wrong right away sometimes and go back and like
Yeah.
verify something to be true and then later on discover, oops, I missed something. But yeah, you're
But
right
isn't that
about
the
the whole
best
thing
part
with
though? Isn't that the
it,
best
it
part though? That's like life itself. It's like a microcosm of existence to begin with. So but I think a lot of people go with a closed mind. That's probably the worst part. To be like open and be like, hey, and just kind of get like maybe some like fundamental concepts in there. But I think the fun part is, but you also have to be real with yourself. And when you realize you make a mistake, don't be like, I'm not gonna, just go ahead and put it out there, because it's that's for me, my point of view, my perspective is like, that's the fun part.
so and that brings me to a whole new thing with you and being a podcaster. So tell me
Okay.
what one of your best and or I should say what your most interesting and fun mistake ever was in
Oh my god.
podcasting up to this point.
Oof. Oh my god. These are like the hardest questions I've ever had to deal with, dude. Oh my, interesting. I don't know, mistakes. There's been so
Yeah.
many. I'm not going to be a politician and dodge the question. I'm really thinking as I'm talking at this moment. I don't know, man. It's like, I think it's the like there's. I think the thing I learned the most is that there's some people, they when they have a story to tell, you just sit back and you lay in the cut, you just stay there and you listen. And there's some people you have to lead, and then there's some people like you, which are all great, but there's people like you. When I interviewed you, and we talked about the green witchcraft and the things that you're into and your experiences in life. It's just some people are so like naturally gifted at it, that
Mhm.
bounce, and you just learn that. So the mistakes I have sometimes is that the other people sometimes are not used to it, and like conversation has this natural feel, and then you think it's coming to an end, so you try to like interject at the right moment, and they keep talking. um, But I don't know, a lot of most of my mistakes are technical. like, like I'll push a recording button. It would just be my big dumb head there before the countdown, or I'll make those mistakes forever. And I'm okay with that because that's, like I said, that's the fun part. And I think one thing's to be so polished that in the end, it doesn't have that feel to it. But it's not intentional as well to be so messed up sometimes. But it's just a process. It's kind of an art form. If you really look at it, it's a bit of an art form to be able to interview and listen and talk to people. The art form of conversation is being lost a lot. I mean, in the old days, we would just meet up at a place and, body language and hand gestures and tone of voice and tonality and how you, are able to tell and speak a story and also have a conversation. I think that's being lost a lot with the social media stuff. But I think maybe some of it's being picked up again because people are then coming on these podcasts or watching them. And that's why they enjoy it, because they feel like they're being part of it. You know what I mean? So mistakes, there'll be many more in the future. We all recently just had a large one, but we don't have to get into that. But it's the way things, that's the way, what I'm talking about, I'm referring to. It happens, dude. It happens, and you have to just kind of, struck out on that one. Go ahead and hit a single on the next one, to use a baseball analogy, and just keep on keeping on.
So where do you see the eye going to in the next year? What are you doing to like, as far as, yeah?
Well, when I'm able to either supplement my income slightly, so I don't have to do construction, wherever that may be, if I'm able to then become an English teacher, or if the Eye of Jupiter, is able to support me just a little bit, I really plan on going out and actually going to places and speaking, because my Spanish is getting pretty good. Like yesterday, I was with my girlfriend and my boss, and he's from the Netherlands, and he was saying, "Oh, he speaks better Spanish than I do," and I always thought no, and she was like, "Oh, no, actually, you are better." I was like, "Okay." He just knows a lot of the technical terms about what we're working with. I do solar panels. I see myself, honestly, I want to speak with people in this area, because this area is deeply rooted in Mayan culture. For example, I was at work, it wasn't yesterday, it was the day before, it was during this week, maybe Wednesday. We're building this pool in this house, and I'm running the plumbing and electricity there. And so it was their boss, the subcontractor, and two of the workers back there, and they were just, talking. And then I slowly realized that this is not Spanish. This is and I looked at them, I go, and I said in Spanish, what is that? And they were speaking Mayan. That is incredible. Yeah. So there's that deep tradition, or that deep culture of the Mayan culture that has a lot of things. There's a lot of there's a famous, we would say witch, they call it something else, but the name is Ishtabai. My girlfriend is 100% Mayan. Her last name is Kowich, which is, I always said cow and witch together. So I was like, ooh, moo, like that. And she gets upset, but we're having fun. And that is, that's our goal, to make you laugh, buddy.
Right.
So there's that, and this Ishtabai character is like a beautiful woman that lures you in, and offers you this, offers you that, and the next thing you know, then when you look away and turn back, they'll have like a horse leg and a chicken leg, and there'll be a ugly shrew. And there's actually a bar here called the Ishtabai. It's a very famous witch. There's a lot of there's duendes, and I just want to go out and just kind of talk to the people in the community, and just kind of subtitle it, and just have this interesting firsthand experience. I think it's something that not many people heard. I don't think it's ever been done actually on YouTube that I know of. Giving you all my ideas out there, but I have a few other ideas. Eventually I would like to do some paranormal research, Paul from the Paranormal Among Us. Go and check out his podcast, great guy, and just kind of go in and do that. But that'll also be in Spanish as well, and just kind of touch base more with the community. because I live as the Mexicans do. I don't live in a gated community. I don't live in a house with a pool. I'm in a one bedroom apartment, um, and I learned to speak Spanish because I had to. And but I keep running across these stories, man, that I don't, I mean, I'm kind of saving them up. There's one particular entity that's Mayan. It's called Alushis. I think it's, I'm not a very good spell. I think it's Alluxes. It's like it's kind of homunculus slash cupid type. I can't think of the name of that
Oh, yeah, yeah,
particular.
yeah.
Yeah, whatever those are called. What's the name of that one? Cherub, a cherub,
Yeah.
like little people in the forest kind of thing. And but it's like they create it out of like mud and blood, and they use it to protect the land from corn. It's very connected with corn. I've heard some stories about people seeing these things and having fevers in Spanish, and I'm like, all right, I think this is the next step for me. So I guess that would be the first thing, and then after, I don't know. I just want to get really good at what I do. You know what I mean? I want to get really good at what I do. I enjoy speaking with people, conversating with people. I can also do it in German as well and subtitle it. I've been thinking about doing that as well. And I don't know, man. It's just like I kind of want to fly by the seat of my pants because that's kind of what I've always done, especially doing stand up. You always have to be, in the moment. When someone says something, you have to be able to bounce it back and kind of tie it in with what you're saying, and just kind of see where it goes, but enjoy the process at the same time. Long-winded answer.
Right. Yeah. See, I think, but it's really good because I think what you're on to is a really great idea, and I think we had this conversation the other day in chat or something. I remember talking about
Yeah, we had I
um
think we kind of touched base on it. Sure.
yeah, yeah. Because not only is it unique, but it will it'll put a whole new spin, I think, on people's people, especially here in the States, their idea of you know Latin culture and the the lore and the realities of our
Yes,
neighbors to the south. I don't think because I think a
much
lot of
different.
the yeah, yeah, but most of what they're familiar with, is what the media plays out, which is never a really positive sign. But
No.
I think somebody bringing to us, you know, some of the just raw, just grassroots, parts of their culture that we don't normally get to experience. We don't like, we've heard about the chupacabra and things like that. Again,
It's
very
kind of a joke
media
here in this
type.
part of Mexico. The chupacabra is a bit of a joke here in this part of Mexico. They're like, not really, but there's other things. I was
Right,
interviewing,
right.
I think like my third interview with Dr. Jupiter. I think his name is Thomas. It's a European last name, and he lives in a place called Aguas Calientes, which is it's called Hot Waters. It's like northwest of Mexico City, like 2 hours, something like that. And he was doing like archaeological digs on like this mysterious hill where they're finding like alien artifacts, and I actually showed you the artifacts, dude. So this place is so mysterious. If you think about all the ancient North America too, don't get me wrong, you have they have that snake mound in Ohio, and there's pyramids being found with the two guys, but it's starting to become like the things that were fringe for so long, where you're like, the Bigfoot stuff and all that. It's starting to become like more, lack of a better term, mainstream, because the world has become so crazy. So people are like, okay, give me something where I can grasp on, and they go, whoa, wait a minute, people, like, what was it? We're having 2,000 to 3,000 Bigfoot reports a year. I'm just kind of shooting in the dark. I'm sure it might even be higher than that. And they're like, yeah, and then these people, their stories start lining up and things like that. So like, yeah, dude, it's a very, like, even like the mushroom stuff like that, like a lot of that started from here in the high deserts of like Chiapas and all that. Not Chiapas, Chihuahua, which is the biggest, not just a dog, but the biggest state of Mexico, and it's a very mysterious place, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I got to somehow, talk to people, see if I can get them on camera. Maybe I can, maybe offer them, a little bit of money or something like that, and just like, tell me your story. What stories have you heard? I can have my girlfriend, but she has quite a few stories already that she's told me that are pretty hair raising, and she's like, no, I've seen this. I'm like, whoa, so it's gonna be a lot of fun.
I think so. It's definitely one of those things I'm looking forward to. Uh, the information that I have on some of the experiences that people have had there and so forth is kind of just from a lot of gleaning it off of YouTube channels and so forth like that to try to catch up with what's really happening to date. And that's not an area that needs to be ignored by any means. It needs to be discovered. It needs to be really tapped into. And I think you were the person to do it, to be honest. Uh,
Well, you mean being down here in Mexico? Is that what you're saying?
I, well, yeah, and being down there in Mexico, and also just the fact that, I mean, I don't believe in coincidence. I believe people are put where they're put for a reason.
Okay.
So, so I believe that you may be the person that can really, you know, bring.
Yeah. So like, I'm kind of like the what's it, Lewis and Clark of Mexican paranormal stuff.
I
I got
mean,
to be honest with you, it scares the living crap out of me, man. I'm not going to be like just like I'm this gung ho guy, out there with my flashlight in the dark in the jungles of Mexico, which I have done, but it's because
yeah,
it was out of necessity. But it didn't become normalized, and like someone like say you come down here and I go to show you my ranch, you're going to be like. I'm gonna be like, yeah, don't worry about it. There's snakes out here, but they won't bother you. You're gonna be like, huh? You know what I mean? So life happens, man, and that's the thing that's great about it. It's like I lived 20 years in Europe, I lived 20 years in the States, and now I've been down here for 2.5 years. And I really want to like get more of a connection back to Germany too, because they have so much folklore over there as well, and just like interview people and then have that all subtitled as well for English audiences as well. Yeah, it's I don't know if I'm going to be like I said, Davy Crockett of this, but it's just it's fun to do. Like I was at this work site and I was just like, "Do you have any stories about witches or something or anything?" And this guy just started rattling them off, and I'm like, "Man!" And this one of the dudes that spoke Mayan, and I was like, "This is incredible." And I'm still not up to snuff on all the verbs. Some of them are really hard to conjugate, and most of them are really difficult for me. But I'm getting there. And if not, I'll take my lady with me, and she can be like, "Tom, he's saying this," and I'll go, "Okay." I should break it down kindergarten style for me.
so we have a question for you here. Uh,
Okay. What was your aha moment where you were like, "I just witnessed this, and this paranormal is real." Like I was saying at the beginning, it hit me. I didn't know about paranormal stuff before I got hit in the head with the 2x4. So I was like, I actually put the cart before the horse on that particular situation. And it really messed with me for a very, very long time. But I've had some experiences here that are completely different. But like I said, doing this, I was speaking with, Rye and people from here. They're like, "Oh, yeah, that's a Lucius." I'm like, "What?" I was speaking to hunters. They're like, "Yeah, just be careful when you go towards like the hills. They like to be in the hills area and throw rocks at you." What are you talking about? And the first time I had an experience, I was out there with my daughter, and we were roasting some marshmallows. We're like, "Look, this is the life I like. I love being out in nature." And she was like, I was like, "One day this will be yours. You know what I mean? It's all going to be coming to you." And she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Yeah." So we're just it's getting dark, and it's next to a mountainside, but I cleared like you have to clear the jungle out because it grows, dude. And we're just roasting marshmallows, and all of a sudden I just hear this rock. It wasn't big, but I heard it fly through and hit the leaves and the trees and and I was just like, hey, your dad's getting tired. We need to get up out of here. And that was the first one. So that was the most innocuous one, I guess you would say. But then there was two instances that happened about maybe 8 months ago now. It's been quite a while. And they happened within the same week or within 2 week period. So I built this cabin out there in the middle of nowhere. It's literally 3/4 of a mile off the road, but also only a mile and a half away from the Gulf of Mexico. So it's a pretty cool place. Uh, it rains, like now it's the rainy season, and then it gets really hot and dry. But you have to put a mosquito netting here because there's like 5 different types of mosquitoes. There's malaria, there's dengue fever. There's quite a bit of things you have to be aware of. And so we have this mosquito netting around this outdoor area where I built this kitchen and this shower and this toilet area. But I like being out there. So I'm sleeping in a hammock, and then my daughter is sleeping in a hammock, but at a 90 degree to me the first time. And I was just about to go to sleep. I had to get up to go to the bathroom. So I kind of shuffle around here so I don't knock over her hammock or wake her up. And I go to lay down, and like I was laying on my left side because you kind of lay like catty corner around. And then if you want to switch, you have to lay catty corner the other way. It's not the ones like the beach ones where they're flat. They're kind of like more of a cocoon situation. Like I'm going to be a butterfly in the morning kind of thing. And, and so that was so stupid. But anyhow, in my left ear, I hear this distinct voice like whispering to me. There's a female voice. I said, and I couldn't make out what was being said. And it's just my natural reaction. I just kind of threw a punch over my left shoulder. I'm right-handed. And it was nothing there. And then I think maybe, I can't remember what this was, but this was a little bit time, another time later, maybe a month later after that, I was sleeping in a different area. I built an addition. And so I'm in my hammock, and my daughter, she was a little bit older. She wasn't 6. She was in 7.5, or whatever. And she's a little farther away from me, maybe, I don't know, maybe 15 feet. But facing, like one hammock's here, one's hammock here, but one's farther back in a new addition. And I can see her. And I get up to go to the bathroom. I also had to kill a snake that night. There was a snake in the bathroom. So I took my machete and killed it because I don't think it was a poisonous one, but he was just eating ants that were inside there. But at the same time, I don't need a snake, floating around while I'm trying to sleep. So I just hit him with a machete. It sounds awful. Don't kill animals, but if you're trying to sleep and there's a snake in your cabin, you will do it. And so I'm laying back down, and I'm just, heart's pumping a little bit. And I kind of close my eyes and open my eyes, and I see this light. We have this metal roof, and so it looks like this. It's like bluish white. It's about the size of a softball, and but it was just like soft and not scary or anything. And it looked like someone was shining like a bluish white flashlight, but not powerful at all. And I go to look to see where the source is coming from. So I just basically had my eyes up, and then I looked down, and I don't see anything. When I look back up, it was gone. But as I was looking at it, it was kind of moving a little bit. And so that was one night. And then 2 nights later, I get up to go to the bathroom again. So the shower part is next to me, and like the door's open, and I can see that is actually no door, like the flap is open. And this time, the same bluish white light is on, instead of being up on the ceiling, it's on the wall, which is also metal. And once again, I'm just like, what? And I look back, and it's gone. The same thing happened again. So very strange. So I lay back in my hammock and go, okay, that's weird. And then behind me, so there's the mosquito nettings all the way around me. So there's maybe, I don't know, 4 feet mosquito netting. And then behind that, maybe another 20 yards, I hear a voice again. And it was a female voice. It wasn't. So I speak German, I speak English, of course, and I speak a little bit of Spanish, and I understand this, how it sounds and the way it rolls and all that. It wasn't that. I'm guessing it was Mayan. I don't know what it was, but I couldn't make any distinct words out. But it was a female voice, that much I can tell you. And it was like whispering, but kind of not. But it was also, very audible, but also not. It was very strange. And it kind of freaked me out a little bit. And I do know, like I've said before, I'm not a Christian, but I do know that if you use the name of Christ, or say, in the protection of Jesus Christ, I would like you to leave me and my family alone. We're not here to harm the land, because I know it might be illusions, because they're land protectors. Even here in the city, these are old, like fields and stuff, or old places where the Mayans lived. Um, and people have them in their backyards. You know what I mean? It's like, it's completely normal here. Like, there's a bunch of caves here. It's like, it's all limestone caves. So there's people who have backyards where they have, these things in the caves. And so I just said that. And I was like, I'm not here to harm the land. If anything, I'm here to help the land and make it, to make it better. And, if you want to stay, you're more than welcome. If you want to protect the land, you're more than welcome. But I need you to leave my family alone in the name of Jesus Christ. And ever since then, nothing.
Wow.
That's pretty wild. But as far as I know, you're supposed to be able to, you have to like believe it is the Lord and your Savior for that to work. So I don't know if maybe it's deep down in me that I don't know it yet, and I haven't consciously like thought of it yet, but it worked. And I'm not doing it as like some type of shortcut or to to. It was scary, and in that moment, I guess it was a real thing for me. So I don't know what that is. I don't know what the implications are that I get for me personally, but it was quite interesting. But I don't know. Once again, it's a long-winded answer.
It's interesting though. So Fisher had a little bit of a, I think he's asking exactly what like this
Like a
particular,
lechuza. I don't know what a lechuza is. Lechuza. I
yeah,
don't know
I'm
what that
not
is. You're gonna have
familiar
to
with.
maybe. Excuse me. You have to clarify what that is. I'm not familiar. Yeah. Lechuza.
So it's
It's more of like a.
interesting.
It's like a. It's always between. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, mistakes will be made. This is one of those. I don't remember what I was going to
Right.
say now. I was just like, okay, be interested. Concentrate. Concentrate.
So it's interesting that you said you specifically mentioned a blue white light and a female voice because with the night that my adopted mother passed, I was sitting in her sister's living room doing my homework, and there was a picture window that went into like it was looking out over the front yard, and the yard was massively long. It was setting on a hill, and it was massively long. And about halfway down the yard, um, there was this really faint bluish white light, and
Yes.
I heard her speak my name. And I didn't think anything else about it, to be honest with you. I just kind of like blew it off and was like, thinking to myself, it's just me missing her. I was like 9 years old at the time.
Wow,
And
that was
then,
young, dude. Okay, man.
yeah.
Wow.
And then the next morning, of course, I woke up and there were all these people there. And I'm thinking to myself, some of them are from out of town. I'm like, this is not normal. What's going on? And then I found out later, of course, that she had passed that night. But I found that very interesting when you said blue, white light and a voice. I was like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe someone had passed there and they just wanted to be maybe once again like what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word. Like, I'm here, do you see me? And I'm like, yeah, I see you. And you're like, okay, cool, I can go now. Whatever that is, whatever, I'm being recognized, or I can't think of it. It's another word that's way better than that. But my English vocabulary sometimes is not up to snuff.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're saying that it has something to do with a witch that turns into a
Yes,
bird.
they, they are very, very afraid of owls. They're very afraid of owls. Mexicans, they always say it's a harbinger of like bad to come and witches and stuff like that. They're very superstitious about owls. James, if you're ever watching this, that's something I forgot about. That Mexicans are very superstitious about owls and witches.
Hmm.
Eh, so there you go. Our buddy Fisher brought it up, and now I gotta contact James. I'm gonna write him.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Um, it's really interesting because like the Native Americans, believe, from what I've been told, that owls are the spirits of other people at times too, but they also there's also a lot of stuff about owls being the harbinger of bad luck and stuff like
Wow.
that.
Yeah, yeah. They say the harbinger of bad luck. Yes, that's what they'll say. Very interesting. Because um, because people think of like when people think of Mexicans, they think like, oh, they're just some brown people. Not to try to be racist, but it's kind of like the idea. They don't speak. They're shorter than us, black hair, but they are Native Americans who
Exactly,
speak Spanish.
exactly.
It's exactly what you are. I mean, she's Mayan. My girlfriend's Mayan, Aztec. There's a couple other in between Olmecs, and then you get up into the Pawnee, the Shawnee, the Cherokee. All those are just different nations that were all Native Americans. So that's what Mexican people are for the most part. There's some Spanish influence, not just the language, within their DNA and things like that, but they're they're Native Americans all throughout South America and Costa Rica and all that. It's just that they didn't have the type of genocide, for lack of a better word. I hope it doesn't get flagged by that. That the settlers of North America did.
Right, right. That's one of the things that is probably, I would say, it's one of those things that was a fortunate miss for them, um, that they didn't have to experience all of that mess, because that was some of the things that we're
Well,
learning even
there was
now.
a lot of their culture got supplanted. You know what I mean? The Mayans have their religious stuff, and now they're 99% Catholic down here or whatever. Well, it's not that. It's like 90% Catholic and like 10% Protestant. But like their language got supplanted and their culture got supplanted. They just did it differently. And yeah, but like I said, there's still towns here that you go in that one speaks Mayan. It's pretty wild, dude. It's such a cool thing for me.
Wow, yeah.
I know a couple words. I know a couple words. I know a couple words. The black poison tree or black. There's a black poison tree in South Florida. People might know. If you touch it, it'll mess you up, and some people got to go to the hospital. Some people might even die from it. That's called uh, uh, chichin. Chichin. That's a Mayan word. And then there's another tree that's red. It looks the same, but it's red and it's got flaky bark. That's called chaca. And if you take that bark and you like boil it and make a paste or like a liquid out of it, you pour that on the chichin, and that will heal you. So the thing that hurts you is normally growing back next to the thing that heals you here.
Right, right. That is very
There's a lot of
true.
words like to go to urinate. To urinate is called wishar. So like, is this a couple words? Chakchi is a certain fish here that in Spanish is called boca rojo, which is red mouth. It's like a kind of like a perch.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm learning a few words that you pick them up.
Right. You do a lot better than I do. I'm telling you. The folks that I worked with back in Chicago tried to teach me things sometimes, but I can't even, like,
What in Spanish? In Spanish,
yeah, yeah, yeah. But honestly, when it comes to rolling my R's, I can't even do that, like,
can't
to
do
save
it.
my life. It,
Don't don't
it is
don't,
like,
don't think I can do it. It ain't
yeah,
happening.
yeah,
I can do the German R. The German R is back here. Like arbeiten. It's like reichen. I can do that one. It's back here, but the Spanish one's the one in the front, and there's a word erase, and it's Borrar. So it's borrar, and it sounds awful when I say it, and every time she's laughing at me. I can't roll the R's too, so don't. You're not the only one that can't do it. But they
oh
can't
yeah,
do the
yeah,
th. They can't do the th, so we're good.
right, right. Well, and it's always interesting to me. I don't remember enough of Gaelic, to be honest with you, to even really say a whole sentence anymore. But I remember, like, some of the people in my family were really good at rolling their R's whenever they would speak Gaelic, and I
Whenever
was
speak
always,
what?
how are they?
Gaelic.
Gal Gaelic.
Gaelic.
Gaelic is the Scottish.
Oh,
Um,
Gaelic. Okay,
yeah,
maybe it's yeah, but I know it as Gaelic. Oh yeah, okay,
yeah,
yeah, that's some weird stuff,
yeah,
dude. Yeah.
yeah. No, Irish is Gaelic, Scottish is Gaelic. The
Oh,
languages are
okay.
they're very similar, but there's a lot of differences too. It's
I didn't
It's
know that.
crazy.
Wow.
It's very crazy. Most people don't. You know, it's unfortunately it's something that the British have tried to erase from the culture for eons, and they've done a very good job
Yeah, but
trying.
that IE shift, the IE shift that happened in England, like
Yeah,
that where the I's are E's and E's are I's, like in German, it's like EA. So E is I, but it sounds like you're saying E, and it's the same in Spanish. You're like, so I always have to switch it in my head. And then when I'm trying to explain it the other way, they have to switch it back for English, which is very difficult. So when people go, I don't understand why these people don't speak English, because English is difficult when you're coming from another language. It's such a strange language. It's a mishmash. Nothing that you think would be pronounced. Okay, this word is pronounced this way, so if you change the front letter, it should be pronounced this way now, and it's not.
mm,
And it's just like you have to know it. And it makes no sense. It's a very cool language if you because I have that outside perspective. It's a cool language in the way you can. We're very good at like meshing it and changing it and making it our own. So it's very funny in that sense, and it's very cool. But for people who don't speak it, it's a mystery. It's a complete and utter
oh
mystery.
yeah, yeah, it really is. English was actually my second language. No, well, technically it was my second language. And when they began to teach me English, there were some words that I could like sounds. There were sounds because in Gaelic there's only 18 letters and there's a lot of diphthongs. So there were sounds that didn't make any sense to me. And the spelling really didn't make any sense to me because if you ever look at the way Gaelic is formed, written, it takes like a ton of letters to make a couple of sounds. So when I
Okay,
got
so
to
it's like
try to,
kind of like
yeah,
Hawaiian in a sense.
oh yeah, yeah, because there's everything is a diphthong. Everything takes like collection of letters to make a sound. It's so weird. I wish I could
Right,
explain it
right. It
better,
makes
but
sense. No, I
yeah,
th-
it was,
I think I know what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah, it's like the original spelling of our name was Colquhoun, and
Say it
it's
again.
pronounced Colquhoun.
Oh my lord. Okay.
Yeah,
Not
and it
again.
it it's literally pronounced Cahoon.
Oh, that's your name.
That's literally the name, Cahoon.
Don't. Oh wow.
And now, of
Yeah.
course,
And
here in
another.
yeah, here in the States, they spell it Chohoon.
Cahoon.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, but
Yeah.
so
And then you learn
let
like your mouth and the way you do things with your throat and your mouth and the way you. It gets weird, man. Like German has a lot of that too, where it has like an A and an E together, and it'll make like an eh sound. So it's like,
yeah,
yeah. So it's like, oh, like the only one that comes close is the O and the E sound together. It's like ooh. So it's like boots. So that's the only one that was like,
yeah.
oh, okay, I can get that one. But the rest of them, I still have issues with. And
Oh
then you
yeah,
have three articles. Instead of one in English, in Spanish there's two. In English there's one, and in German there's three. So, and it makes no sense. Like you'll be trying to speak it, and so it's a feminine word. You would think it's a feminine word, like the word for dress in German is rock, like rock, rock.
mm,
So you would think it would be die rock. Die is feminine, right? So, but no, it's der rock. It's a masculine form. So it makes no sense. And then when it's pluralized, you would use the feminine form, but it also means plural. So it's die Rocke, and it's not with an S. It's like they put like a little thing on the end. So
hmm
it's every language has that where you're just like, okay, der Baum, the tree. So der Baum, masculine symbol, der Baum, makes sense. And then you go plural, die Bäume, and you're like, and then so the A gets the little two dots above it, so that's the umlaut, that's the
oh yeah,
AE,
yeah,
and then you
yeah.
put an E on the end. So and then they put the verb at the end, so it's really funky too. But Spanish for me is even harder because the words are so long. Like the word for tick, like the things that suck your blood, tick is garapata. And like, we need four syllables to say tick, or bats, like bats, like Batman. That's murciélago. And it's like, why? Like, this is the way it
Wow.
is. So it's really, so you think they're like, they're just going, da, 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 da. It's what it sounds like for someone who's not a native speaker, of course. But when you know the words, oh, he's just saying bad. He'll get to the end. You'll have to take a breath in the middle to say it, but he'll get there. Chicken of the cave. I don't know what that means. Was that like chicken of the sea? Is it like a tuna fish thing?
Fisher will take things to a whole new level.
It goes sometimes you have to follow him, and then you go, what does that mean? And he'll go, oh, it means this. But even that has like a little twist on it, but it makes the twist is a little easier to understand. Oh, chicken of the cave, bats. Okay. You're not supposed to eat bats. Remember what happened in China, my friend?
Oh yeah.
I don't want to be a purveyor of false information, but
Right. Now I lost my train of thought. That was too funny. I'm gonna be like, now I'm not going to want to eat tonight either.
He does it intentional to mess us up. That's what he's doing. He's over there running the psyop on us. I got you, buddy.
Right. I feel that. So
yeah,
let's do this right quick. I want to see first of all, because we're heading into a little over an hour so far. Now I know what you've got going on tonight. I could talk to you all day. That's the problem.
We have that. I was thinking of getting some food, but I can go for another 20 minutes, making an hour and a half. That's up to you, of course.
We can go if you're game for it and they don't shut us down.
I'm game.
We're good for it.
I'm game. Now, come on, man. Just give me the basketball. Start spinning it. We'll put on the Harlem Globetrotters music in the background. Let's go.
There you go. Look, so when you first started out with doing the show, did you have expectations for what the show was going to be like for you, or
no,
or were you just you didn't have any expectations at all?
No, I was just trying to think of something cool. I originally wanted to call it Smoke and Mirrors because I'm really into conspiracies. Like, it's kind of like news before news. You know what I mean? Not all of it. There's some of them I'm like, and there's some I'm like, yeah. And everyone's like, you're stupid. And I'm like, oh, we'll see. And then it happens. They're like, how did this happen? It's like, I told you. And so I thought Smoke and Mirrors, and it's also one of my favorite songs from one of my favorite bands called Pussifer. And so I was like, that's a cool name for a thing. And they can put some mirrors and smoke up. It'll look really cool. You know what I mean? But I've always been to like psychedelics and outer space. And I just think like the concept of the eye rotating around the 300-year storm on Jupiter, it's very powerful, but it's also the concept of the eye, the third eye, looking back into the universe as well as Earth and looking at ourselves. So and it wasn't even on a conscious level. That was a very subconscious level. But the more people keep asking me about where I got the name from, the more I kept like giving these explanations. And then I was like, oh yeah, that's what it is. It's a reflection of myself. But no expectations. The expectations is just to follow what I enjoy talking about. And that could be a myriad of things. It just depends on, because I'll do things that other podcasters won't do. And they say, if you want to be, successful on YouTube, then you need to kind of zone in on your, zoom in on your market, or, like aim at it. And I'm like, well, my market is like things that interest me. You know what I mean? So if that makes me then a bad YouTuber, then that makes me a bad YouTuber. But it's not. But I think it attracts the people like you and others, our friends and all that are interested in good conversations that may not be being had or have had, or but haven't had that a spin on it that maybe I think that I can provide. But it doesn't mean that I had a specific aim doing what I do. I just think it sounds cool. It's easy to remember. So there was a little marketing in that. I'm going to be honest with you. It's easy to remember. Jupiter, what is that? And it's like, okay, I got to see that. to find out there's some metal band with the same name, but I haven't listened to any music yet. A metal hit. Um, but yeah, there was no. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do, and I had to learn like video editing, which I'm still not good at. I still got bad sound quality, but I just don't have the funds to get like what you have. I would love to have that set up. You know what I mean? With just a regular Mickey Mouse ears and a phone, because I like to be free to move around too. So maybe I'll do like Fisher has. He has a good headset, but I do like to be able to move and talk and not be because. I found that out being a musician too. I used to play guitar and sing at the same time, and for 5 years I would just be playing these metal riffs and just screaming into the mic or whatever I was doing, and I just needed that freedom. So I think the headset will work as well. But once again, I don't know if I'm answering your question.
No, I feel it. I definitely feel it. One of the things I think that makes your show unique, is that
Oh,
you
dude, thank
really
you.
don't. You have a very raw way of being able to. You don't go out. You don't like break it down and have like a script to go by or any of that. You literally are doing you during the whole show, and I think I've seen so many. There's some great podcasters out there, and
Oh,
I love
absolutely.
every one of them. But honestly, it's like you can tell which ones are going by scripting and all of that. I actually thought about like staying there and writing out all of the questions I wanted to ask you tonight and doing that. And I got about halfway through it. I wadded up the paper and I threw it away. I was like, you know what? You don't need this because questions will come as they're supposed to, and the right
Exactly, dude.
questions are supposed to come.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes what you do is you have a through line that you're trying to follow. You know what I mean? And sometimes it
Mhm.
gets thrown out the window too as well. The main through line is the conversation for me. So there's a through line where we're talking about aliens or whatever we're talking about, or someone's experience or whatever it is. So there's that through line. And in the moment is much more. It's not even intentional. It's just much more impactful. I'm a big fan of like radio from like the 2000s. Like I never liked Howard Stern. A little too much of an ego type thing there for me. Um, but I did enjoy Opie and Anthony and all the comedians that would like some of my favorite comedians like Jim Norton is just one of the funniest people I've ever heard in my life. As a third man, he's the best I've ever heard. Uh, Anthony, Opie was not very good, but um, they would have on like Patrice O'Neill and they would have on these guys and they would just talk about whatever was in the news and you felt like you were sitting there in the room and you felt like and then what would happen is that like I would have something to interject in the conversation that I thought I am, but I'm not, of course. And it just became a natural thing for me to be able
Mm.
to think off the fly. And I don't want to hear like someone will say, okay, I'll be like, what's your experience about? And they'd be like, the main thing is this. And I go, oh, cool, that sounds great. Let's go ahead and do that. And then I let it kind of unfold in front of me so that my reaction might mirror the reaction of the listener or the viewer. And
Mhm.
so it's real for me, which makes it fun and interesting for me. It's real for the people who are watching, and it's also genuine to the person who's telling the story.
Right, right. It's definitely
So I
you.
influenced you by throwing that paper away and doing your Kareem Abdul-Jabbar skyhook. That was me in the back of your head.
I take a lot of cues from you. I really do because some of the things that I've learned from watching you and watching your podcast uh, really play into what I really kind of I try to focus on myself instead of trying so much to be cookie cutter with everybody else because like I said, I find some of it like some of the best podcasts out there, are really great podcasts, but they're too polished for me. They're too
I got
polished.
you. That's why I
I
love
can't.
Tinfoil Hat. Tinfoil Hat is one of my
Yeah,
favorite podcasts with Sam. He is such a wild card, such a genuine person, such a funny person, such a loving person, but also crazy. You know what I mean? And he says some stuff
yeah,
sometimes you're
yeah.
like, no wonder you're not allowed on YouTube. But yeah, he was like one of my influences as well because that comedian through line that I have too. I love doing stand up. I love that because I always have dumb shit in my head. Not to vulgar, but it's always something stupid in there. Girlfriend will tell you what is in your on your mind. I don't know. And but I enjoy that as well. It's just that because when you're on stage, if you because I learned that too. Like I started in 2014. I used to have everything written down. Every okay, and when they say this, I'll say that, and then I'll move here and I'll move there, and then I would get no laughs or very like a nice kind of laugh. Oh he's trying. And what was the funny part? Which what would happen is that you'll have this bit that's like I don't know minutes or 30 seconds, and then I had no way to get to the next piece, so I would just kind of like bullshit. All right, where's my paper? And I don't know what I'm doing up here, folks, which I didn't. And they would laugh at those little quips, and I was always. It's very important to be honest with yourself too. Like a lot of people, I can't watch my stand-up. I can't, and I love watching it because I love seeing it through the eyes of the audience and seeing why they're either laughing or not laughing. And there's times I'm laughing and the audience is not laughing because I still think it's funny. I just couldn't portray it correctly. That's what it is. It's all about being honest with yourself. Like I got to be completely honest with you too, dude. You're doing extremely well. Like right now, seriously, dude, you're killing it. And that's
Wow.
I wouldn't say that to just anyone. Honestly, you're going to be really good at this. If you approach it this way, you're going to be people are going to know who you are. Let's put it that way, man. So, I have a good feeling.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You
I really
keep giving
do.
me compliments. I gotta send it back. I feel bad.
No, I really appreciate that because it's the end game with Magical Journey, is yet to be defined as far as what where I really want to take things and where I want it to actually go. Because I do know that that I'm going to follow the same weekly format um, until I don't, which is
Important.
a recorded um, Tuesday, I think is when I release now my recorded show, which is usually me discussing a particular topic or whatever. And then
Oh
Friday,
wow. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
yeah, and then Friday will be guest speaker interview type of thing until it's not. And I'm hoping that this will evolve into you know, a long-standing part of Magical Journey, because ultimately what we want to do is what I want to do for this is to create an experience where people can share parts of their journey with us in the paranormal. And I think
Right.
it's
You have see the thing is you have more of a personal experience than I do. You understand what I'm saying? You have a point of view doing the things that you use and experience in your life. You actually you've been that's behind the fourth wall, guys. There was things that were happening to me that my buddy protected me on. You know what I'm saying? I contacted him. He was like, "Don't worry about it. I seen it. I got you." You know what I mean? And that's stuff that I'm sure through time that you will hear on this podcast. So make sure you keep coming back to do so. Um, but yeah, you already have the interviewing skills down. You're a good listener. That's important, and you're thoughtful in what you're saying. But what's going to differ between us is your perspective, and that's what I'm looking forward to. Like I'm going to tune in just to hear your perspective of what's being said. So kudos to that, dude.
wow.
That's all. That's the part.
It, yeah, I see how that can play in a lot. I just the one thing that I'm really cautious about at this point is um, making sure that I don't get, because there's that tendency as you get older and you've kind of had your feet in the water long enough that they're shriveling up to get kind
Yeah,
of
pool feet.
yeah, to get kind of tunnel vision. Yeah, you
Yeah.
get kind of tunnel vision, and and to always try to keep that open mind and not just view it through the lens of my own experience. but to be accepting of other people's, perspective on things, and never get to the point where you start doubting things so much. Because this is the thing, in all honesty, and even in my own world right now, I see a lot of things that I even go, really, really, is this happening? Is this what's going on here? And then then you go
Interesting.
back later and you're like, you know, this is what I fought for years to try to get people to open their mind. Open your mind, open your mind, open your
Right.
mind. And
Right.
so it's when it comes to, you personally, in your space and your integrity, sometimes it's real easy to all of a sudden like go, oh yeah, no, this is not happening here. This is not what's
Let's go ahead and take that imaginary, you know, ego pistol and just go ahead
right,
and just pop one off in the head,
right,
and just kill the
right.
ego and just let the love and heart shine through, and people will see that. They will see that. You have
Right.
to take and put that aside and be genuine. You know what I mean? There is times where it's going to be very challenging. There's going to be people who contact you who want to be on your show where you're going to be like, okay, but you have to kind of put that aside and just make sure that the audience knows, you know, these people want to get their story out there, and I'm here as a person who wants to, in the best light possible, do that. And you have to kind of put that aside. What you think in the background, what you think, at night when you put your head on the pillow, is different, and it's not nearly that important too, because then you realize, because we all have a story, we all have perspective, and they all have valid points and meaning to that person, and whether it's real or not is not as significant as it is, to get it out there. I think, you know what I mean. It is. You know what I mean. We have to like kind of weigh it against some things, but the more I dabble into like science, the more you kind of realize it's some type of hierarchical type of like coven itself. You know what I mean? It's become what it's like to tell people like the science is a philosophy. They're like, oh, I'm like, where do you think it came from?
Yeah.
Everything has an origin. Everything has an origin. Philosophy was the first attempt to try to understand what reality is, and so we took the concept. Okay, the 7 steps of testing and retesting and have your, you know what I mean. That comes from, it's a philosophical thing initially, and that's then taken off to become some type of, like I said, some type of dogmatic thing, and it doesn't, and it's then people then believe it. You got the guys with the white coats. It's just the same as someone with their little thing here is a religious person, but they're then cold and materialistic at the same time. Like, what about soul and life and love? Oh, it's a chemical reaction between. And no, it's not, dude. You can't tell me that when you love something or someone or your child, the science can't explain that for me, and that's where then God comes in. So, like, for them to say it's not overlapping magisteria is incorrect in my thoughts. Like, but when I was young, ask me this question, 15 years ago, I'll stand up on my soapbox in a second. But when you get older, you know what I mean. You have to
Mhm.
you kind of calm down a little bit, and then you kind of like go, wait a minute, what is this? You know what I mean? You start questioning your own reality and the subjectiveness that we all have in this reality. We're like all players on this stage. So, like, when you tell
Yeah.
somebody a story that you've had, you would want them to listen. So, therefore, that's what you have to do for them.
Hmm. Exactly.
Here I
Exactly.
am, sound like some type of sage or some type of mystic smart guy. I'm not smart, people. I promise.
Oh, please. Um, yes, you are.
I promise.
Oh,
No, it's not true.
so,
No.
look, yeah, I guess again we are our own worst critics usually, right? So let me ask you this: as far as I guess what has been one of the most challenging things that's crossed you so far that you can discuss um, in doing interviews with people?
Well, honestly, the most challenging thing is that when people are like very like gung ho about being on the show and then don't show up, that's
Oh
very
God,
challenging
that
because
happens a lot lately.
the behind the scenes, people think they all they see is the end product. There's so much work involved. You have to like sometimes you get lucky and like James Fika and the guy I had this weekend that I released, and a few of my podcasts have been people who just contacted me through
Hmm.
Reddit or whatever, and I'm just like, oh, these are cool. But then you're like searching. It's kind of like mining a little bit. I'm looking for like I'm gonna have not tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm gonna be working, but on Sunday I'm gonna have my buddy from Germany record a session with him, and I was like, I haven't thought of him in a while, and I was just where's the story I haven't, you know what I mean? And then you do all that, you get the person to want to come on, and then they don't show up. That's why, like my lives, you go, oh, Tom always starts up a little bit early. It's like, no, Tom puts it at 5:15, or my time 5:15, 7:15 Eastern time. It'll be 6:15 when the time changes. No daylight saving time here. Is that I would tell the people, hey, show up 10 minutes in advance, and they wouldn't. So I would say that time, and then they just show up at that time, or sometimes they're before that, which is then cool. Then we can talk a little bit, but if not, I can just go boom, we're right on. We just go on, and that's cool. Or we can say, hey, blah blah blah, and I still got a little bit of grace period. But that's the most challenging thing, is that people do not do what they say they're going to do, and that's the hardest part, I think, is
Right.
what's the word, like I don't know, the whole shenanigans that you have to do, whatever if you work at a warehouse, whatever that's called.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
The
yeah. Definitely.
logistics
Like,
of it.
yeah. And I guess that's the joy of doing live is that because it is live, whatever happens is there's no editing it. There, you,
No,
you just there's no
no.
editing any of that. So, if they're not showing up or whatever, and you're having to like fake it till you make it, so to say, on a show, it really does kind of uh, throw you for a loop sometimes, I
Hmm.
imagine. Fortunately,
Which
I
is
have
like,
not had that happen yet,
right,
obviously.
that's why when I do the lives, I kind of like doing them with people that I've had on in the past that I trust. Like Neil Ballas is incredible. I'm going to get you in contact with that.
Oh,
He has a different name
oh
on
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Facebook, but Neil Ballas, he's fantastic. He's just so interesting. You just have him on to talk about his lucid dreaming, dude. It'll blow your mind. He's a master of that stuff. Where he's
Wow.
talking about flying so fast that reality couldn't keep up, so it was like making like this wake, and like it was black, like a black hole in front of him, and he just keeps flying faster and stuff. You're just like, what, dude? He's so cool.
Wow.
So I like bringing on people that I know. So like what I do is like so the pre-records, not always. There's people I also know that, hey, let's talk about this one next. Oh, cool, come on. And then I can go, okay. And then I write my little notes like, okay, at around 60 minutes, he said a word that you can't say on YouTube. Or he's talking about this, and I kind of want to, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? But for the most part, like lives, like you're saying, you are, this is, I made a mistake at the beginning there, and I said the wrong word, and I go, oh, I'm so not professional sometimes. But that's also the fun of it too.
Right, right. I mean, I I remember, God, this is going to age me drastically. I remember like the big thing when I was a kid was television shows sometimes were still filmed live or even in front of a live audience, and there was obvious mistakes made from
Yeah.
time to time. Carol Burnett was one of the best shows of all time. But if you go back and you watch the Carol Burnett show, Tim Conway,
Oh, I love the Carol Burnett show.
Tim Conway,
It's so
every
funny.
single time, he literally had them like they would be in the middle of a skit and he would do or say something that would catch them off guard. They would lose it every time. And there was no way to redeem that.
No.
They would lose it and it would take 1 minute or two to pick it up again. And that made the show. That
Who
made
was
the
the
entire
who was the tall guy? Who was the tall guy who was on Blazing Saddles? Harvey something? Harvey
Harvey
Harvin. I
Harvey
can't think. You know what I'm talking about.
I
When
do.
he's doing the dentist, when Tim Conway is doing the dentist, he even who was the woman who she used to do the old lady? She used to do the old lady. She was the Big Mama's house, or mom, not Big Mama's house, Mama's house, and
Oh,
she would say, Vicky Lawrence, yeah, Vicky
Vicki
Lawrence.
Lawrence.
See,
Yeah.
she's funny too, and there was a skit in particular where Tim was on the edge of the couch being like a kid because he was a little bit shorter than everybody else, and then she would say
Hmm.
something, and their whole idea was to break them. And
Yep.
it's a
Yep.
very funny show. I love the Carol Burnett show.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
definitely aging both of us. I never watched it. I don't know if I watched it live, but I do go back on YouTube and watch it occasionally. Mama's house, Mama's family. Thank you.
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
say it? Lyria? Lyra?
It's
Lyria.
it's very interesting too that Vicki Lawrence actually was somebody who started working with Carol Burnett through a fan letter. She wrote
Wow, I didn't
Carol
know that.
she wrote Carol Burnett a fan letter, and I forget the whole story, but it's very interesting. Go back and um, see if you can research that a little bit. Uh, their relationship was just a very because Vicky she was very much younger than Carol Burnett, so their relationship was very
Yes, and she would play
interesting.
the old lady.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, their relationship was very interesting. And I believe Carol Burnett is really where Vicki Lawrence got her start at and all of that.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think she ever like did anything before the Carol Burnett. So it's very
Yeah, it was kind of
interesting.
it was a sketch show. It was a sketch comedy show,
Mhm.
but it was also very improv as well. It was very, I mean, like,
Very.
the most famous one is like, the Chappelle show, which was
Oh yeah. Yeah.
fantastic. I also, many people, I love In Living Color. Anytime Jim Carrey would come out and
Oh,
be Fire Marshal Bill or whatever the hell he
oh
was
God.
doing, or David Allen Greer, or all those Kieran Wayne's, all this, it's just killed me, dude. It's a
Oh
great
yeah.
show, man. Go back and look at it. It's very stupid.
Oh yeah. 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 I remember some of those episodes. Now that you're saying it, it's just like, oh geez, how did they even get through those shows?
You want to know
I,
something?
right. Right.
But back then, that's everyone watched the same stuff. So you would go into school the next day, and everyone knew what everyone was talking about, and then you would be on the playground, or whatever, or at work or whatever, and you would be imitating what you've seen the night before, and everyone would be involved. But now there's so many things you can watch, and everything is open. So it's more like people are following their interest more, and
Mhm.
that's also a cool thing too. It depends. What you know?
Right. Right. Yeah. It's our culture is definitely has evolved into a lot. I remember just having three stations to watch at one time, maybe four, maybe it was, and so everybody did have
We have
pretty much
five.
the same.
We have five. 2, 11, 2, 11, 13, 45, and 54. I remember those. And Star Trek was on two of them.
Yeah, true. That was that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I truly
You
have
had the little, you
enjoyed.
had the little Mickey Mouse ears that you would turn.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
we had the
Aluminum
we had
foil.
the yeah we had an antenna outside the house that you had to turn. One of those tall antennas. You
Oh,
had to turn
wow.
it. Yeah, it was a mess. It was a complete mess. I remember our TV with an old Zenith um vacuum tube TV.
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. Do you remember those record players that was like a piece of furniture in your house?
Yep.
It
Yeah.
was like it was literally like a coffee table that was like maybe twice, well, not twice the height, but it was like higher than a coffee table. And
Yeah.
your mom
It
would
was
put
a
her little candles on
console.
there, and then she had a little thing. Yeah, yeah. It was, and you flip it up, and it had like the little hinges on it, and yeah, dude,
Hmm.
it was a thing back then. People go, oh, back then it must have been like a dinosaur. No, it was good times, man. I remember how it was a lot of good, like, it was just so
Right.
different. It was so much different. It's like we've
Right.
lived we're living in a very interesting time in being born when we were born. And kids growing up nowadays who were born like 2000, they don't even know what before the internet was like, and that's
Oh
weird.
no.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I look at some of the people I work with now. Like, I think the youngest one is maybe 20, somewhere in there. And I it blows my mind. I don't even know how to, like, there are conversations that I have with them sometimes, and I realize that they have no clue what I'm talking about. Like, I have, well, to put it in perspective, like, some of these kids were either non-existent or were babies, like, in 2001. So
Mhm.
they their lives, as far as they're concerned, like, the whole 9/11 experience never affected them.
I said, and hopefully that's not a new ride at Disneyland.
It it
Sorry.
like, they literally treat it like it's ancient history.
Well, it's the same thing with you and me with the Kennedy thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
must have been crazy, dude. Imagine. I mean, we almost just experienced that, even though it's a little different, in the situation, the circumstances. But you have to imagine this is an active president that got assassinated, and
yeah.
we look at it the same way. So you have to give perspective to all that. And then you have people back in the 1800s like, you should have seen these wheels they came up with. It's always something like that. We have to.
Right, right, right. Yeah. I can't, like, I look at my grandfather's lifetime. He experienced the Dust Bowl, the Depression, both World Wars, all the way up to 1964 when he passed. It was like anything that happened in that time period he experienced.
Right.
And people talk now, they're like, "Oh, this is terrible. The world is going in
Yeah.
a very bad place." They're like
No.
they're like this has got to be the end of days. I'm like, let me tell you something. When I do the history on my family, and I look at what that generation saw, I'm sure they probably believe the same thing that we believe now. You know, we had in that time period, they had the Spanish flu, they had, oh gosh, like I said, the Dust Bowl, which was
Oh, they had World War
terrible.
One, World War Two, the
World
Korean War,
Two,
the Vietnam War.
right. The Great Depression. I mean, all of
Yeah.
those things happened, in some people's entire lifetime. And we look at what's going on now, and yeah, there's a lot more going on a lot quicker, it seems like. But you
Well,
have
it's
to
intentional.
remember too, it is
It's
intentional.
intentional. It's
But
intentional, not to mention we have access to it, so it's a little bit of both.
right, right.
You
And
have to be
not
able
to
to filter
mention
that out too.
too, right, not to mention too, I mean, the world is moving at a faster pace because we have more toys. We have planes and we have cars and we have boats and we have all these things to move us around quicker and faster. And we have the technology that we have now, to do things at an incredibly faster pace than they had at that time. I mean, you think about it, airplanes didn't come around, like, they had airplanes in World War One, right? But
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they had
What they used
they
to shoot through the propeller,
yeah,
like
yeah,
old, right? But it was timed with the motor so that it would shoot through the propeller as they were flying. Yeah,
yeah, right. they had like airplanes was probably their best technology at that time, if you think
Right.
about it. And then, of course, the Germans did whatever they did in World War II and blew technology out of the water. They were like, oh, wow. Some of the things that they were working on, despite what people know about them overall in the field of technology, they were doing some incredible things.
Just look
There's,
at the V-2 rocket. They had the first jet plane. They were working on the atomic weapons. They had it backwards, but they were working on it.
mhm,
The first
right.
like the first car. I lived in the city where the first car was ever made. It's Carl Benz in 18 something 95.
Yeah.
I've been to his museum, all that. It's you know what I mean. They were ahead on a lot of things, and you think about all like the classic composers and philosophers and all that. It's a very interesting place. All the bloodlines in Europe, all the monarchy, whatever the royal bloodline. Excuse me. That's
Mhm,
all German. Even the Russian ones are German. People don't know that.
yep.
It's a very
Yep.
interesting place.
It really is.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should have wrote in the private chat, dude. I'm sorry.
I just realized like we went way beyond it
Not
what
that
we
way,
were
but
planning
definitely a
to.
good 10.
But you know what? So now we both are kind of like at that point where like the first interview that you and I had on your show went
Oh
over
yeah.
by quite a bit too. So it's always interesting.
Oh yeah, that was
I,
147, but I had
oh
bad
yeah, yeah,
audio. I can barely hear you, and then oh man, I ruined two shows with those headphones. The cheap ones were the good ones. These are like
right.
$5, and the other ones are like fucking $30, and they completely wouldn't work. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Looking back,
We have conversations. Yeah, sorry.
yeah. Looking back at that, I was like, yeah, the audio was really kind of a challenge that day, but the conversation kept going, and that was the thing of it. Um,
Yeah,
so at least people will know whenever they see us coming on together that there's no telling what we're going to do, where we're going to be at, and how long they're going to be seeing us on.
yeah.
It's just
What
the
we're gonna
thing.
wear? I might put on a weird Superman costume or something. We never know. Wigs. Let's get some wigs.
I actually have some cosplay stuff in my no, yeah. Anyway,
Oh, that
so
was that was surprising.
you never know. So really quickly, give us again a plug for your show and anything else that you would like to plug. I know you've got some really interesting things going on, lineups going on in the future. So we need to get them to subscribe if they have not subscribed yet, so that
Yeah.
they can continue.
Yeah. Once again, it's the Eye of Jupiter or the Eye of Jupiter podcast. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Spotify. You can also find me on Rumble. Excuse me. A live shows every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and it's 3:30 my time is when I release it. I don't know if it's 3:30 and everywhere, but it's 3:30 here, so that's 4:30, 5:30 um, East Coast time, and every once in a while I'll throw in a little extra little things I'm talking about or a quick live on my Facebook page. You can also go over there and you got interesting comments, remarks, pictures, all that can be sent to me. You can also contact me through the Eye of Jupiter podcast at gmail.com. If you have any stories or experiences and would like to come on the show, go ahead and do so, and we'll make that happen.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I appreciate you. I love you, dude.
I love you too, brother.
You are a huge superhero of mine now.
No, no, Dan. Don't put that weight on my shoulders. I don't like that.
Oh, oh. Well, let's just say you're a really cool dude then, I guess.
All right, we'll put it there.
We
You're a
got
cool
that.
dude too, man.
We'll
Yeah,
we'll put it there.
whenever
Thank
I meet you, we'll high five. But the first thing we do is we're high fiving.
you. Right,
Yeah,
right. Right. Well, I appreciate you, and I will see you again shortly, maybe if you hang out in the
sure.
green
Yeah,
room.
just put me in the green room.
All
We
right,
can chat for a second. Sure.
all right, good deal.
All right, buddy.
All right. Well, and there is Tom Franklin, good friend of mine. Love him. Those of us that work with him behind the scenes always have a good time. Always. I appreciate you guys for coming out tonight, coming out, for dropping in. You're right. Yes, Pam, it was a very good chat tonight. I felt that. Um, I'm going to just give you a quick heads up. Next week, for those of you who know, you know, I have lined up. Are you ready for this? Fire Lotus the Witch. So, those of you who know him, make sure you drop in. Do not miss this one. I love you guys, and I will see you again next week.